Hello and welcome to my CSC 7084 solo project. So my website's called Thought, um, and I'll give you a quick overview of the PowerPoint here first. Just quickly, I'm using my phone as my webcam because I don't have one because I just recently moved. So if there's any issues, that's why. But it should be all good. So getting quickly into it. Project details. Don't have the URL of the video yet. That's my GitHub repository, and test user credentials I haven't set up, but I'll get them before submission. So moving into database design, as you can see, only 5 tables. Initially I created just the users table, so its primary key is the user ID and it does auto increments. So there's never going to be the same user ID, and it's what's used to start user sessions. So we have username and password. I have email set up, but it's doesn't need to be inputted by the user. So username and password set up, password salted. I also have salt and pepper set up, but pepper's stored separately from my database. The minute it's just in a random file in my source code. It isn't the safest place to store it, but it's easy. So moving in, we have 2 separate sides of the database, each with each set of data that I stored for the users. So we have users' emotions and user triggers. So we had 7 emotions given to us in the project. So in my emotions table, I have 7 emotion IDs, 1 to 7, each with the corresponding name of the emotion, which lines up with like the flow of how they're logged. So I think first is enjoyment, so enjoyment's emotion ID 1, just made it easier to program and keep track of. Same with user triggers. 6 contextual triggers were given as examples, now to use them. So as you can see, emotions has the capability of storing the log date and the log time, which allows me to then later on the hours use Chart.js for plotting graphs and showing trends and data. So then so then emotion scored 1 to 100. It just stored as an integer. User ID, as you can see, is in both tables as a foreign key. Same with emotion and trigger IDs. Getting into the project structure, so overall project thought. I think my source code's my should number, but anyway. I went for a structure which I really liked. Well, I'm not 100% whether it's good practice, but allowed me to really keep track of where files are. So all the CSS is in the CSS folder, all the HTML is in the HTML folder, etc., so on and so forth. You can see for HTML it needs CSS. I've put style after them. Well, their names aren't actually style. That was me copy and pasting in draw.io. So yeah, then all images are in the image folder. Then JS, as you can see, like login form.js is then for HTML login.html and CSS login style.css. So they're all the same naming convention. I know they all go together. I can keep track of them. Then I have app.js and package.json file at in the root directory of the folder for ease of access for calling it. So system implementation. In this project I utilized Express.js and Node.js for the back end development. Express.js, a web application framework for Node.js, was used to build the web server. I chose this technologies due to their wide usage, robust community support, and the ease of building scalable networks. In reality, I probably used them because it was in the lectures, but anyway. System design. The system was designed using a modular approach with separate modules for each functionality. So especially in my app.js file, each sort of root function was split up. They never overlapped. That meant that I could go in and edit one, and I know it's not going to affect any other functions within that same file, even if there's several functions used on one web page. I know that they're not going to be affected no matter what I do in that individual one. Let me have that sort of ease of access to know that I'm not going to break anything else. which helped me troubleshoot and develop. So database design, well, I went through it, I'll not waste any more time. User interface. So the user interface was designed to be intuitive and user friendly. I really wanted a very simple, clean, modern design with not an overload of information. Not a lot of words to read. People don't like that these days. They like colours and pictures. So I kept it that way. So that gave minimal options. So there was a clear user flow. Whenever you go into this website, there's very little to do, especially whenever you first log in and you haven't logged any data before. That's sort of the only thing you can do, because if you don't do that, the website's useless. So that's like the really obvious thing. So users drag towards that. So I kept moving on. So kept color scheme throughout the same, just for some familiarity with it. My motion logging was done not via integers on the front end, although obviously that's how I stored in my database. My emotions, instead of just a blank slider or a slider with 1 to 100 like you would now someone, I feel a 97 enjoyment today. So it was real world scenarios. So for example, I'm an Arsenal fan, so Arsenal just won the league. My enjoyment was really high, which I tried to keep the positive ones more likely to happen, which isn't very true at the minute. But anyway, not football. So yeah, then on the other end, the drastic ones would be really drastic for the most part, so they're less likely to slide the slider that way, given an overall more positive score and session for the user. So yeah, kept the color scheme. This game actually generated from, I found online a psychologist called Plutchek's Wheel of Emotion. So he has an emotion, a color for every emotion apparently. So I got the color code directly from that website, and that's what I used throughout for all of my emotions and kept them the same throughout. Then for security message, basically basic security message implemented password hashing. I went through salt and pepper. I used SHA-256 over SHA-1 as generates more complex hash. So development approach. I use an iterative development approach. So I first started with I have one web page. It was the motion logging, which you'll see later. I pretty much perfected that, and the only thing that was missing was the back end side of it. And all I'd done to sort of not do that yet was I logged all 7 emotions to the console, and I knew that if I had that, I could move that into my back end easily enough, and I can worry about that later. So I done everything in small segments like that, instead of developing it all and then sort of bringing the entire website on as a whole. I perfected like each little bit of it and then tied it all together. Collaboration, it was a solo project. I just set myself goals to not sort of limit my creativity. Then testing, I was sort of testing throughout. There wasn't, it worked almost perfectly by the end, because whenever I was building things, I was building them to perfection before they were being implemented elsewhere on the website. List of references, but we'll get into the actual code. So probably should have opened this before. So welcome to Thought. So this is my call to action page. I'll go through this quickly. Pretty much call to action. It's website's one chance at actually getting business, so it needs to be simple, it needs to be to the point, it can't have an information overload. So I just have my brand logo and what it does, and a get started button. If the user doesn't like that, we have a small amount that they can scroll into to try and reconvince them. So come down, we have some nice animations coming in here. So not sure, have you ever had a thought? Are your emotions in control of you? Do you like free things? Yeah, everyone does. Let's get started. So we'll go in here and we'll create an account. So Patrick Boyle at email.com. So as you see, we log in and we have nothing, but it says welcome Patrick Boyle. So then if I was to go into my database, we have Patrick Boyd email, and then the salt and the password and the salt. Sorry. So yeah, so I'll log out, and I have an account with some pre-existing data. So yeah, as you can see, we have our recent logs here with a score generated to give the user a rough idea of what their sessions were, so that it wasn't just this random thing that happened and they don't really have anything to take from the overall session. So pretty much it was my math skills have sort of gone from undergraduate. I tried to sort of normalize it so that it was a score between 0 and 100, but that didn't work too well. So yeah, so pretty much positive. So 100 on enjoyment would be plus 100. 100 on sadness would be minus 100. I tried to like weight them so that it was pretty much giving a bias to a good score all the time, but that was the idea. Anyway, so we get in here and we want to log the emotions. So we're going to click this and we're going to go to the first page I built. So as you can see here, there's these random sentences. So enjoyment, you've just spilled coffee on your laptop. You wake up and you think it's Monday, it isn't, or you got a great mark on web development. So up here, say I'm not feeling it, I go back to home. I go back in. These are all different. They're randomly generated every time from a JSON file with loads of random sentences, a bank of sentences. So we have for this 7 emotions, 3 each, so 21 banks for just this. Each one is 3 or 4 and it just generates one randomly. So as you see, you just spilled coffee on your laptop reappears, but Arsenal just won the league. As now this is to sort of keep the user experience fresh. So if I go down and I click this locks, and as you can see up at the top, this emoji's lit up to show the user that this is locked. I then can't drag this, but if I click it again, so yeah, so they are all like that. So just go through them quickly. So then you get into the overview that was generated. Would you like to log contextual triggers? So it gives you an overview of what just happened. Would you like to log contextual triggers? Yeah, I would. So come in here, and it's a very similar format. So again here, same slider. So this is just on the back end, 1 to 100. We're at 12 minutes. Oh my god. So yeah, so as you can see, social interaction has lit up, so we know that's done. If he's feeling okay, no, actually I didn't acro with anyone today, he can unlock that, move it down, or she. Yeah, so going through, I'll just lock thieves, don't mean anything. Put Weller up full for the sake of it. So then if I go in here, so if I go in here, if you remember, I put Weller up full, and what is that, social down low, because I didn't act with anyone, interact with anyone today. So we have these, and I didn't like that very much actually. I lied to myself. Delete, it's gone. Completely different as the previous session. Say I go into this one and I'm like, I really like emotion triggers. I really like my emotions, but I want to edit the triggers. I can go in and I can fast edit. So say I'm like, oh yeah, these were all full. They go to all full. Yeah, same with emotions. They can go all full. Yeah, so go full, but nah, don't like it, delete it. And as you can see, if I want, I can keep deleting right down to it stops pulling in. There's no more, there's only 2 things. So if I go into my database and just show you this, so if I go in here into users, I'm in this account, so user ID 12. If I go into user emotions, and sort by, oh wait, sorry. Yeah, so sorry, there we go. It's user ID 12. As you can see, there's only 2 log sessions. So getting back into the actual web app and how it works. So the dashboard, to create the graph, I obviously use Chart.js. You can see it comes with a lot of built-in functionality. So yeah, so used Chart.js, keep saying 3JS. Chart.js, I used an array to map over the log date from my database and turn it into a date string. Then I mapped over the emotional data and created an object for each emotion. So 7 objects in total. Each object had the same properties. So some object-oriented programming. I had label, data, color, etc. Then I used some jQuery on this as well. I used document ready that ensures my web page is loaded before any JavaScript is ran. So I can show you some 15. So yeah, as you can see from, I can show you this. Well, update motion record. It's what I've showed previously, where it's the different format of modifying the previous data. So as you can see here, it's not deleting the data and reinserting it into where it was. It's using the update function in SQL. This shows some data persistence. My data, when it's not being used, is staying in the database. So for example, as well, if I was to shut down this as well to show some more data persistence, if I shut this down, close it all down, it's all gone. Go back into Axam. If we go into users, all the same data is there. It hasn't been lost. It's stored there permanently. As you can see here, before I had the salt working. Yeah, so just quickly, so yeah, you see I have async and await in places. This is because Java it's an asynchronous language, so sorry, it's single threaded language, so I done that so that sort of I didn't block the thread with commands being done. Everything got done its own time and sent a response, whether it was positive or negative. My website can tell, okay, like that record wasn't inserted successfully, or inserting records, or record inserted successfully. That was really, really useful for testing. I didn't have to go and keep checking my database every time. I could just see in my console, yes, okay. So probably shouldn't have closed that down mid video, but I did. So yeah, as you can see, we're back in here. It's the data that I had previously before I closed it all down. Everything's the exact same. If I want to go and log a new session, put this all down here. And you can do these in different orders as well. It's